In this video, I'll show you how to create a simple pause menu that stops whatever's happening in your game and allows you to resume, access other menus, or go back to the main menu, and we'll be doing so using best practices. I'll use the third-person template and my project, which has the main and options menu from previous videos, but you can follow along with any project. Let's get started. First, you want to create the widget, so go to the content drawer. I have a folder called UI and Widgets, and here right-click, go to User Interface, Widget Blueprint, and create a new user widget. I will call WBP_pause menu. Double click to open it up. And first, we just need a canvas panel, which allows us to position things. Then a vertical box, and drag it in here. Click on the vertical box, and let's give it a size of 350 on the X and 200 on the Y. Then let's also anchor it to the middle, so hold Shift and Control and click the 1 in the middle here, and this makes it easier to work with. Now we want the first button, so go here, look for button, and drag it inside the vertical box. Then I want to style it, so select the button, go to background color, and on the right side drag it all the way to black, click OK. Then on style, normal, outline settings, give it an outline of 5 pixels. Now we can collapse this, and I want to add the text here, so look for text, and then drag the text inside of the button. Let's call the first text resume. And then we basically want to have 2 more buttons, one for options, one for back to menu. But first I want to give it a proper name, so let's call this button resume. Make sure it's a variable. Then here I can Control C to copy it, Control V and Control V. Now select the second one, call it button options. Then select the text inside and just say options. Then the last one, call it button back. And then here for the text, just say back to menu. And now I want to have a bit of distance between the buttons. So select the button back, hold Control, click the button options, button resume, so we can select all of them at the same time. Then go to padding, and let's say at the bottom, give it a padding of 25. And this already looks pretty good. But let's also just add some text here that says paused. So again, we have text here. We can just drag it inside here. Then say paused, all in caps. I want to make the text bigger, so make sure to open up the font here and maybe 100. Then I want to scroll down and make sure it is centered on the justification. And then I want to anchor it to the middle, so Control and Shift to the middle. And then on the position Y, I can just drag until I believe about -300 is a good place to put it. And now that we have the widget, we need to set up a button we can press to actually go into the pause menu. And again, in my case, I have the third-person character, so we want to set up the input inside of this character, and this might differ slightly depending on what your project is. So let's first open up whatever character you're using. In my case, it's in content, third-person, blueprints, and I have the third-person character here. And you can see we have the jump input and other inputs here, and we have to create an input like this for the pausing as well. So in the content drawer, I go back to content input, and here we have the actions. I want to create a new input action. Right click, go to input, input action, call it IA_pause. And for this one, very important, I want to open it up, and you can see it has the trigger when paused here, because we want to be able to press the button again while it's paused to go back from the pause menu. So for this one, we want to turn it on. I can then back out here, go back to input, and the IMC default is what we're using here for the mapping, and I want to add it here. So in the default key mappings, open it up, and I want to add another one here and use the IA pause that we just created. And then we need to set the button. Now we can press this icon and hit escape on the keyboard, but escape is a bit hard to test because it actually shuts down our session. So I want to also add another button here and just use P as well for testing. Now we can save this and close it down and go back to our character. Here, right click, IA_pause. The enhanced action event is what we're looking for. Open it up, and then we want to use the started pin here. And I can just create widget, and here we select the WBP pause menu. And then add to viewport to actually show it on the screen. And for now, this is just a quick way to show it, but we will use a cleaner approach later. So if I start the game now and hit P, you can see the menu is showing up, but the game is not really pausing. For now, that is fine. But what I want to do now is to actually show the mouse cursor so we can interact with the menu and don't control the camera anymore. To do that, I can right click here, get player controller, and this has some nice functions that we want to use. Drag off here and set show mouse cursor, connect it, and set this to true. And then here I want to set input mode. And in this case, it could be UI only or game and UI. Since we still want to listen to the pause button being pressed again to then hide the menu, we actually want to use game and UI here. So connect it, double click for the reroute. Let's try this again now. I click here, I press P on the keyboard, and now you can see we get the mouse pointer. We're not moving the camera anymore, and the hovering is also working here. But you can see the character is still breathing. The game is not actually being paused correctly. Pausing the game is very simple. Here I can just drag off and set game paused and make sure to set pause to true. And now if I start the game, I move around, I hit P, you can see by the motion blur that we are actually paused. Now things do get a bit complicated though, because we want to hit the resume button to continue with the game. However, this is a menu that is not directly connected to the character. So a better way of doing all of this to handling the pause is to actually do it in the game mode instead of doing everything directly in the character. So let's now open up the game mode, and since I'm using the third person character template, I have it in the content, third person, blueprints, and there's the BP third person game mode. But you might have a different game mode for your game, so open that one up. Then I want to open the full blueprint editor, and then in here I want to set up a few events or functions. Just right click, custom event, pause game, and then I can go back to the third person character. I can take everything here after the IA paused, Control X to cut it out, go to the game mode, Control V to paste it in, and connect it here instead. And now I want to call this function instead. So compile and save, back in the third person character, I can right click, get game mode, I can cast to BP third person game mode, and the game mode is always in memory, so creating a hard reference here is not an issue. Connect from started, not from triggered, and then I can call the pause game here. Now we're doing the same thing, but the game mode is taking care of this. The character should not be powerful enough to actually pause our game, and this is just better architecture. And if I start the game now, it still works the same. I hit P, and we're pausing the game, but it's a lot easier to access the game mode from the resume button than it is to access the character. What I want to do now is create an event to unpause the game, and we can then use that from the resume button click and also when just pressing the pause button again. So right click here, custom event, unpause game, and I now need to access this widget here, but we haven't saved a reference to it. So let's instead right click and event begin play, and I can then move this up here, Control X, Control V, to just do this once the game started. And here I can hold Alt, left click to disconnect the lines, promote the variable, and call it widget pause menu, then connect it here, and then also connect it here to the add to viewport. Now on pause game, instead of spawning it, I can just drag it out the widget pause menu, and then I can set visibility, and I can set it to visible, and then connect everything here. And then when we unpause the game, I can also just get the widget, and I can then set visibility, and in this case, set it to collapsed. Now one more thing I have to do is to copy paste this, Control C, Control V, and do this after begin play, because otherwise the pause menu is shown right at the beginning. But when unpausing, I of course also need to change these things with the input mode and with the game paused. So let me just Control C to copy this, connect it here, and I want to do the opposite. So show mouse cursor, set it to false, and then set input mode to game and UI. No, delete this. Set input mode to game only, and connect this up here. And we can flush inputs just to make sure we don't hold the button, and then connect the set game paused, but set pause to false. Now both of these events are prepared, we just have to call them. Let's start with the menu, where I then press the resume button. So go back to the pause menu, here we have the resume button, I can select it, make sure it's a variable, then scroll down and use the onClicked event. Then here again we can right click, get game mode, cast to BP third person game mode, or whatever your main game mode is that is used in the game. And then here I want to unpause the game, which is the function, the event we just created. And to show you this works, I can start the game, hit P, I can click on resume, and the game continues, hit P, and I can just keep on doing this over and over again, and it is working. So let's now do it that I can hit P again to unpause the game, which I currently can't. And for this we have to go to the third person character, and before this we have to do some branching logic. So I can right click here and look for game paused, and it gives us the is game paused. I can drag off here, look for branch, which is like an if-else statement connected from started. So if the game is paused, then we don't want to do this. This is what we want to do if the game is not paused, then we want to pause the game. If the game is paused, then I can Control-C, Control-V, connect this up here. And then I want to unpause the game. So we're basically just toggling between these two states. Start the game, I can hit P, I can hit P again to unpause, and everything is working with the button or with the keyboard. I now quickly want to add a bit of background blur here to make it look nicer. So in the pause menu, go to the designer, and then here I can look for blur. We can drag the background blur on the canvas panel, select it. On the anchors, hold Shift and Control, and pick this one at the bottom right to spread it across the entire screen. Then here for the appearance blur strength, let's try 50. And I can then drag the background blur between the canvas panel and the vertical box to have it behind the menu. Now if I start the game, hit P, you can see we have this nice blur in the background. And lastly, let's now take care of the other buttons here so we can go back to the menu. So in the pause menu, we can click on the back button and then make sure it is a variable, scroll down, on clicked. And then here, very simple, open level by object reference. And you want to put in the map for your main menu here. In my case, it is L_main menu, but put whatever you called it. If I now pause the game and click on back to menu, it actually goes back to my full menu with the new game, with the options. And by the way, you can get the full project files on Patreon, and you also get a simple plugin which allows you to plug this entire menu into any game you make within a matter of minutes, so you never have to make a menu from scratch again. And in this video, we're not going to implement the options, but that is also included in the project files. In the next video, we'll also add the credits, so make sure to subscribe to not miss it. As always, a huge thanks to my awesome patrons and YouTube channel members.